My name is Daryl Dotson. I'm from Pine Bluff. I'm 57 years old, and it's an honor to be asked to come and speak.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any street names?
Just Daryl Dotson.
Daryl
Everybody,
Dawson.
everybody call me Dotson.
Dotson.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Dotson, how do you remember Pine Bluff back in the early 90s and late 2000s?
Well, in the early 90s, Pine Bluff had a crack epidemic. I didn't know what crack was. I went to a friend of mine's house, a so-called friend, and we was drinking Coke 45 and smoking weed, and he had some white stuff on the table, and I tried it. The first time I tried it, it made me laugh, and I went home. That following weekend, he invited me inside, and I tried it. And I don't know what happened after I tried it, but after I tried it that second time, that seemed like that was the best thing I ever had in my life. And back then, we only made $150, $200 a week, somewhere around there. And that second week after trying that crack, I went home with $10 to my name. The crack was a different drug, and I didn't understand how the drugs could control my life, but it did. I tried to hide it from family and friends and my mother, but eventually they knew I was doing something, and they determined that it was crack. And Pine Bluff was pretty bad back then. It was a lot of killings, still a lot of killings today. But for me, the drugs took me down through there. So I tried to self-fix myself. And when I say by that, I tried moving. I moved to Milwaukee, and it was less than 2 weeks, a guy that I worked with asked me about drugs. And it was on a Friday, and before I got home, I had bought some drugs, and we had used drugs together. And I believe that in the drug world that we know each other. We could look each other and tell, well, he does drugs or she does drugs. And so I tried to run away, but I forgot when I got to Milwaukee, I forgot one thing. I took myself with me. I hadn't worked on myself.
Can't run from yourself.
I can't run from yourself. So when I got there, I think the first time I stayed 6 months. And the apartment complex I lived in, the people around me, they would come to my apartment because I lived by myself and I worked for an electric and plumbing company, so I was making good money back then. So everybody wanted to come to my house and do their drugs. So one Sunday, I gave all my stuff away. I hopped on an Amtrak train, came back to Pine Bluff. When I came back to Pine Bluff, I still had a drug problem, and I went downtown 3rd and State on a Saturday night. And I had been smoking Primos in the truck.
For who don't know what Primo is, can you?
It is a marijuana joint with crack cocaine in it, or just a joint with tobacco in it.
Okay.
And I had smoked that, and I went in the club, and I'm not going to call his name, but I went in the club, and me and him got into it, and I called him a bitch. So I decided to go back outside. When I went back outside, this guy came up to me and shot me 6 times with a .22, kicked me, and I could hear 2 things. I could hear an ambulance, and I could hear a train. Back in those days, we didn't have overpasses. So I laid on the ground bleeding out, and I prayed to God. I said, please let the ambulance beat the train. And a lot of us that has used drugs, we always say a prayer when we're in despair. I said, Lord, if you help me live through this, I would not drink or do drugs again. Of course, the good Lord knew I was lying. And so he got me through that. And for about a year, I stayed away from drugs and alcohol. And a lot of people don't realize that women will get you back on drugs and alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Okay.
Now, you may not understand what I'm saying.
Okay. Explain for me.
If you got a girl that does crack and you start fooling with her just for a relationship,
You pick
sooner or
up.
later you're going to be smoking crack with her.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And it happens time and time again. And um, I end up, I do heating and air conditioning. I end up buying some stolen air conditioners, about 10 of them for $500. And I sold one to a church. And I was using, matter of fact, the day I went to the church, I was high as a pine tree. And usually when I sell a used unit, I pull the serial number off of it. But I was so high that morning that I just hooked the unit up, got my $2,000, and came on back to Pine Bluff.
And what about your business?
And so about a month later, I went outside to smoke a cigarette, and I looked down the street. I said, my neighbor done got in some trouble. So I'm sitting there smoking this cigarette, and the police started walking toward me, and he said, Dotson? I said, yes, sir. So they handcuffed me. They took me to jail. And for my previous convictions, they wanted to give me 20 years in the penitentiary for selling a stolen unit. And I was sitting in jail, and a lady came by, and she said, Mr. Dotson, I can get you in drug court. You can go home today. I've been in jail 3 weeks. So when the woman said today, I don't care what you got, let me sign the paper so I can go home.
That was a no-brainer, huh?
So they put me in drug court. They didn't tell me up front that I had to go off the treatment for 60 days. I used to wear a lot of jewelry, even when I did drugs, because it made me feel like I'm not a crackhead. It made me feel like you sitting over there, you trying to count your dollars together, and I got $5,000 worth of jewelry on my hand. And so they sent me to treatment in Little Rock. This is how my life began to change. They sent me to treatment, and on Saturdays, you could go outside and wash cars and smoke cigarette. You couldn't smoke a cigarette until Saturday. So every Saturday, I'd go out and wash cars. The guy that owned the treatment facility had a big building next door full of washers, dryers, refrigerators, and stoves. The stuff didn't work. But I told him one Saturday, hey, I can fix this stuff. He didn't believe me. But we went over there, we fixed some of that stuff. The next Saturday, he sold half of it. So he gave me half of the money. And so he owned rent houses as well and had a bunch of buddies that owned rent houses. When they found out I was an electrician and can do heating and air, instead of me going to my class, I'm riding around Little Rock, fixing air conditioners, walking around with $2,000 in rehab. One of the guys in rehab, he's from Pine Bluff, and he was jealous because I came in one day from work and I had a T-bone steak, a baked potato, a big old soda, and they was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the treatment. Make a long story short, his sister, the owner's sister, said, Dotson, do not bring no more outside food in here. So the guy from Pine Bluff got jealous, and he called to Pine Bluff. He told my probation officer that I was going out to work every day. I was bringing food in. So probation officer called me on the phone while I was in treatment, and I caught an attitude with her and one of the counselors. The counselor told me, he said, you ain't nothing but a dressed up garbage can. So I got to arguing with him. I left Little Rock, came back to Pine Bluff. That Monday morning, they locked me up, and they gave me 90 more days in a state-run facility. And that's what changed my life, because if I wouldn't have went to that state-run facility, the first treatment program was just like a walk in the park. I was just there just because they made me go. But as I said,
You didn't want to do that 20 years.
That's right. So as I sat in this treatment facility with all these kids, because I was the oldest one in there. I'm talking about I was the oldest one. The rest of them 20, 18, 20, 19, whatever. And so they all called me old school in there, but I didn't like dealing with the young folks. So I stayed on my rack until it was time to go to class. And being on my rack, I had time to talk to myself, talk with God, and things started to change. I decided that I didn't want to do drugs anymore, but I knew I had to get out of this treatment program one day. And it's easy to say what you're not going to do when you're not around it. So the day that I got out, had a friend of mine to pick me up. Hadn't had a cigarette in 90 days, so I asked him for a cigarette. When I hit that cigarette, I almost passed out because I hadn't had one in 90 days. And so when I got back to Pine Bluff, the first couple of days I stayed with my mother. Then I ended up going to my wife's house, and she's dead now. But when I went to her house, she was still doing her thing, but she would hide her bottle to the side. She didn't want me to see her drink and think it was going to entice me. And then she would go outside to the storage house, so I know what she was doing out there. And I just couldn't deal with it. I said, I'm not going to live my life like this right here. You sneaking outside, hitting your dope, drinking your bottle. I don't want this life anymore. And so when I got out of treatment, I really didn't know what I was going to do. But one morning I woke up and I said, I've been doing heating and air for 30 years, and I need my license. But I'd always told myself, I guess it was the drugs that told me I couldn't accomplish this, I couldn't accomplish that. So I decided to go take my heating and air test. Lo and behold, I passed it. So then I said, I want to take my electrical test. I went and took it. I'm not ashamed to say it took me 6 times to pass it, but I passed it. So I started a heating and air company. It's not the biggest company around, but it pays the bills. And just strictly leaving drugs alone completely, everything I touch now seems to turn to gold. I have the vehicles I want. I have a few dollars. I got a good woman now.
I heard that.
Back in the past, the women I had, they were users like me. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they weren't good women, but in order to maintain your sobriety and your way of lifestyle, you got to have a good woman behind you.
Yes.
A lot of people do not believe that, but you got to have a good woman behind you. Mm-hmm. But I passed both of those tests, and the bad part about people, I'm gonna say black people.
Okay,
You may edit that out of there, but okay. I'm gonna say black people.
I probably feel the same way.
Black people don't know when to let something go. Just because you started out this way don't mean you can't turn out this way. Mm-hmm. I had a lady in Alzheimer. She needed a unit put in her house. It was $11,000. I went down there, did my measurements, walked through her house. We sat and drank coffee. She wrote me a check for $11,000. On the way back to Pine Bluff, I get a phone call, and she said, Mr. Dotson, I wrote that check on the wrong account. I need you to bring that check back. So I did a U-turn, took her check back, and I'm standing there waiting on her to give me the check on the right account. Uh-huh. And so she said, sit down, Mr. Dotson. She said, when you left here, I was on the phone with a lady, and the lady told me that you smoke crack. Now, keep in mind, it's 8 years past since I did drugs. Mm-hmm. But the woman on the phone told her he smoked crack, he going to take your money and run off. And I'm like, so the woman sat down, she talked with me. She said, well, Mr. Dotson, I sit and talk with you for a couple of hours drinking coffee. She said, my sister used to be on drugs. And she looked at me and said, I know you are not on drugs today. Here's this check. She gave it back to me. Mm. But black people got it bad about trying to keep us down.
Yes.
We should edify each other, mm-hmm. but we tend to talk about, oh, he used to do this, he used to do that, or she used to do this. People can change.
Yeah. They want to condemn you for eternity.
Yes.
You know.
People can change. I changed. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago.
Yeah, you ain't the same person you was last month.
That's right. That's right.
People change every day.
Well, don't get me wrong. I still like to joke and have fun. I just don't use drugs and alcohol. Mm-hmm. I got some of the things I want, and people often want to know where I'm getting all this stuff from. I bought a 50-foot RV, a diesel pusher. Mm-hmm. You selling dope? No, I'm not selling dope. I'm working. I was making the same money back then as I'm making today, but I'm putting it to good use now.
Yes.
I went through some things as a child, and I hope my mother don't see this video. But my mother put my brother on a pedestal. I got a twin brother. And I don't know if some of the things she did affected me. When I was coming up, I had, is it ADHD?
Man, they got a whole bunch of letters now.
Hold on. But they didn't know what it was back then. They called me hyperactive.
Yeah,
I was always moving, always.
we just got ass whooped back then.
Yeah.
That was the medication.
And so I remember, and this has bothered me to this day. And I'm not going to talk to my mother about it, but we went fishing. They had a fishing contest out at Oakland Park. And I caught all the fish, first place. When it's time to take the fish up to she gave him to my brother. Oh, let him go get there, because I was a badass kid, man.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of ass whoopings. And I don't regret the things I went through in life as far as being on drugs. I used to, but I know that made me who I am today. Yeah. And I can help somebody else. And even my workers, I got some workers now that do crystal meth. Some of them black, some of them white. But I talk to them on a daily basis about how your life can be if you leave the drugs alone. And it's not about money. It's not about the material things in the houses that I have bought today, because I got more stuff in the last 10 years than I had in my whole 57-year life. A lot of people say, Dotson, you got it going on. But I would trade all that material stuff and money to stay sober. If I had a choice where you go out and get you some crack or keep this stuff, you know what I'm saying, I'm going to get rid of my stuff because I know that you can change.
Yeah. And usually they just see what you achieved today. They don't see what you went through back then to get that. And it's been a long road, you know. I don't know you personally, but I see Dotson all around town. I see all the trucks and stuff. And like I said, I didn't know your story. And if you wouldn't told me, somebody would have told me, I'm like, no, you're lying to me. No way, no how. Somebody was on crack cocaine, came this far and built a small empire like yourself. But I'm glad to hear it from your mouth. And man, your story is motivating, and I hope when we get this video out there, man, we touch some people, and we definitely want to have you back because I feel like you still got a lot to say.
I do. I have a lot to say. I don't know my time, and I'm not new at giving lectures or talking to people. Maybe I'm a little nervous. I don't know. But this guy here knows me.
Yeah.
She knows me. They know everything I used to do. I've told them.
Okay.
But like I say, God has been good to me. And word to the wise, if you want to leave drugs alone, get away from all the people that you hang with. You cannot hang with people that do drugs and be sober. It's no way around it.
All right. There you have it. Mr. Dotson, talk to you later. Thank you. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Roderick Bell.
Roger Bell. You got a street name, Mr. Bell?
Just Rod.
Just Rod. You like me, just go by your government name.
Yeah.
How do you remember Pine Bluff in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Well, mostly like everything, I was just contemplating on what he was talking about. And back then, everything, mostly what he said was just right on point. Okay. And like back then, you know, everything seemed like then it was a good life. And what I say about that, you make life as what you want to make it as. I don't care who you are and what you do in life. Drugs, alcohol, whatever thing. Life is a drug itself if you just realize what you're going through. Because peer pressure, a lot of people don't be on drugs, but they kill themselves off of peer pressure. And what I say, like I said, I used to smoke dope, used to smoke crack, all that, man. But
so let me ask you this question, Mr. Bell. So back then, when you was indulging, you wasn't trying to get away. It was just a party thing. You were just trying to have a good time.
me myself, alcohol was really my biggest downfall in my life.
Okay.
The drugs wasn't really, it didn't mean nothing to me, the drugs, but every day I would drink every day. That was my thing. But the whole thing about it, I couldn't handle it. I would go off. I'm telling you, it didn't matter who it was. Once I had enough, I'd go off. And in my life, man, I was just, after my grandmother passed in 2000, man, she was my everything, man. And it seemed like when she passed, everything went downhill, man. I just really didn't care. Really just, well, I lived or died, I was doing stupid things and myself, man, I wasn't brought up like that. And I always tell myself, we choose our own ways in life, no matter what, how your upbringing, who you was raised by. As you get older, you choose the road that you want to go down. And the road I went down, it was dark. It was dark for many, many years, man. In and out of jail, And I always think about my grandmother through all of this. She would always tell me how good I was and how good of a person I was. But I wouldn't take that in consideration, man. In 2009, man, I was staying in Little Rock. Didn't have no stable place to stay. I was staying at a motel. And I was sitting out with some guys. We was just sitting out drinking. And so I had my alcohol in a cup, but the police pulled up. And so when they pulled up, they said, "What are y'all drinking?" I told them, I said, "Hey, man, I'm drinking beer." He said, "You can't be sitting there." I said, "Well, I thought if you had it in a cup, it was good." He said, "No." So he ran all our names in. And at the end, he come to me, he said, "Well, Mr. Bell, stand up, please." I stood up. I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "You have a warrant for your arrest out of Pine Bluff." I said, "Warrant?" He said, "Yeah, a child support warrant." I said, "Oh, my God." So that right there clicked back. And I always thought about, I was brought up in church. I always go to church. And my pastor would always tell me, he said, "Rod, God told me to tell you stop running from him." I never knew what he was talking about. And so I said, "Well, okay, go home, think about it." And so, like I said, around 2010, I was locked up in the Dub Browser Detention Center right down here. And as I was in there, man, I changed my clothes, and they was taking me to the back. And I was in my head, man, I'm going to be here a long time, because I knew I owed them a lot of money, and I didn't have the money at the time to pay these folks for child support. And I'm just saying, well, I said to myself, I said, "Well, okay. Like my mama always said, you made this bed, now you got to lie in it." So I said, "Hey, all right, bet." So soon I got to the back, and they put me in there, and they shut the door. Some came to me and said, "Hey, now you can't run from me no more." It just as plain as day. Just said, "You can't run from me no more." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I walked off. I know a lot of guys was in there. So we sit down, we was talking. And it was some guys sitting over there to the left, the right of me. They was having like a Bible study. And I was just sitting there, listening to what they were saying. My head already messed up about I'm just leaving the streets. I don't know what I'm going to do now, man. I'm in this place. What is I'm going to do? I said, well, okay. So I get up and I go lay down. And as I was laying down, I was just thinking about all the things that I done been through. And I said, now I'm here. This is where I'm going to change my life. You know, this is it right here, because I know I'm going to be here for a while. So as I went on, God would talk to me every day, just like me and you talking. I had got so close to God that everything I asked him for, he said, I have a storehouse for you. Since you have obeyed everything I asked you to obey in me, you can get it. So I had stayed in there 11 and a half months. And I was laying there one night. And I was looking up. I had a scripture that a young man had wrote me from the Bible. And I was just looking up, reading the scripture. And all of a sudden, man, I just bust out and started crying. I couldn't stop crying for nothing. All what come out my mouth was Jesus, 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 Jesus. And people, all the inmates was around me trying to come in and see what was wrong with me. I couldn't tell them. I couldn't say nothing. That's all I could say. And so after about 20 to 30 minutes, I'm just crying. I just stopped. And he said, now you have been reborn again. He said, your life is not going to be the same from this day on. So I'm taking that and saying, okay. So I had been calling everybody, man, trying to find someone to help me get out of here. And guy came to me, man, and said, hey, man, have you ever tried the child support attorney? I said, no, I didn't even know they had one. He said, man, call the child support attorney. He said, see what they'll tell you. So I called that lady, man. The lady listened to what I told her. She told me exactly right then. She said, Mr. Bell, I'm going to have you home before Christmas. And this was right after, just like it is now. She said, I'm going to have you home, folks. She said, I'm going to take everything right now and take it over to the judge and talk to him. So she said, call me back tomorrow. I called her back. She said, I took everything over there. She said, just be looking to go home any day. So I laid back there and I said, well, thank you, God. Thank you. And so Christmas came and passed. So I said, well, Lord, okay, I'm going to let you work. Because like I said, everything I tried to do, I failed. So I stretched my hands out and said, Lord, take me. I done gave up. I surrendered to you. And I called her after New Year's to tell her, I said, I'm still in jail. She hollered. She said, you still in jail? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I'm sorry to cut you off. She said, I'm finna get up right now and go back over here and see why you still in jail, Mr. Bell. Out of all the people that I called, this one woman, and I hate to say it, everybody I talked to was black. And this was a white woman. She came back, called down to the jail, got me on the phone. She said, Mr. Bell, be ready. You'll be out of here this evening. I said, ma'am. She said, you'll be out of here. Go in there and get your stuff. So I did like I do all the time, play dominoes. So I went back in. I was playing dominoes. So we sitting up playing domino. Guy came in and he told me, said, Rod, pack your stuff. You finna go home. To say this, I tell everybody, like this man was talking about, to change your life and to get off drugs is you have to change your environment. No, you don't have to change your environment. Change your way of thinking. Because anything you do is in you, not nobody else. Can't nobody else make you do a damn thing. I don't care what you're doing over there. That's your business. If I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. And that's the way I see it. I got a man down there in my truck right now. I got him off drugs, telling him the same thing. Do not take your way from an environment. If you say, I want to stop something, I want to be around it to see, can I stop it? Because if I sit off by myself, I'm giving myself thoughts to say, hey, I ain't going to try this, but your mind can tell you anything as long as you got a pure heart. Your heart it comes from the heart. And I tell him all the time, I said, do not run from your problem. Because like God told me, he said, get up and go look in the mirror. When I looked in the mirror, that's who I was running from, myself. Until I found myself, hell, I know what I can do now. I'm capable to do anything I want to do. Like this man said, what he got, I was sitting on the porch, like God told me, I have a storehouse for you. I was sitting on the porch of my house one day, seeing a dude come by on a Harley Davidson. And I said, oh, I want me one of them motorcycles. 2 days later, I had me one of those motorcycles. Then I ended up with 2 of them. And what hurts me so bad in this town right now is how our youth is killing themselves, man. If I can sit up and just ask one that killed someone, what did you kill him for? What was the reason? If you live 16 years of your life, what could another person do to you out of 16 years make you want to kill him? That's what I want to know. It bothers me just to see my young brothers killing each other. I'm a cook at UAPB. I'm a chef at UAPB. I talk to you young men every day. Every day I constantly talk to them and tell them how proud I am to see them where they're at today. I tell them, I said, y'all don't know how y'all make me feel just to see you're not walking around here with your pants hanging off your ass with a pistol in your pocket. I said, I'm proud of you. You could be whatever you want to be. You play football, I see you on Sunday. Keep doing what you're doing and have faith in yourself. Don't worry about what somebody said. I know they talked about me. They talk about me right now. Think I give a fuck? No. Because I know who got my back, and that's God. I'm no man. I'm not a man-made nigga. I just try to get these young folks to understand. I've been talking to Pastor Crump over here to the juvenile. I want to go in there and talk to these young men. Because a lot of our young men is missing father figures. When a mother can raise a child, but she can never be a father to a child. That's what these young men is missing. A father, somebody that they can believe in and have trust in, man. Because their mothers out here bringing this man, this man, this man, this man in the house. They don't know who that nigga is. They don't know where their dad at. She never took time out to take him and say, this your dad. To try to get this young man to understand. Hey, for that man to try to understand and grab his child before he be down there and dub browse, just like them other young men down there got stabbed and killed. It hurts, man, just to see our young brothers wasting their life for nothing, man. And I'm glad Marvin, man, that's my number one, man. Me and him growed up playing Little League football together. Got much love for him. And he asked me, I said, hey, man, you know this is what we do, man. When we tell the truth and the truth prevail, what we gonna lose, brother? I'm not gonna lose nothing. And what folks look at and see, man, they see me every day and say the same damn thing, so okay. I'm just telling the truth. I've been there and done that. But God, the one, brought me out of this. And every day, that's who I wake up and think. I thank God every morning, man.